Hey there. If you recall in a video I made just a few weeks ago, I spoke about Michael Jordan's career in all sports. Well, from that topic, I was asked to expand a bit more about the front office of the Chicago Bulls during their successful stretch in the 90s. More specifically, I was asked how they were attempting to build this team around Jordan with the money they had and how they evolved over their championship runs, especially during the time when Jordan had retired. Back in the 90s, there was a salary cap, but the money wasn't the same then as it is now. Organizations like the Bulls were paying their best players anywhere between $2.5 to $4 million per year, leaving you with plenty of room to sign whomever you'd like to build your team to the best that it can be with a salary cap that was above $25 million. There was, however, a two-year stretch where Jordan made over $30 million a year in the late 90s. Apparently, there was a clause that allowed teams to re-sign players from their roster at whatever cost. Even if that cost puts them over the salary cap, they would not be fined for it, unlike how it operates now. So with that, it was more of a task in finding players via free agency and through the draft that would mesh with Jordan's game and allow him to do what he needed to and have the others be solid supporting members of the team. This is how the Bulls built their dynasty team. It wasn't easy. It took many different lineup changes in the 80s, draft picks, free agent signings, and coaching changes to make a team that Jordan could win championships with. But it seemed as soon as they found a rhythm that worked, they had to adjust again. After winning their third straight championship, Jordan retired, and it was up to the front office to figure out what life without Jordan would look like. Well, it actually looked more successful than most would have anticipated. The Bulls front office was fortunate to still have Scottie Pippen on the roster. And with his offensive game somewhat comparable to Jordan's game, it was an easier transition than what most thought it should be. Now, when I say their offensive games are somewhat comparable, what I mean by that is Pippen didn't shoot very many three-point attempts. Neither did Jordan. Pippen made a living with the mid-range jump shot and his driving ability, also similar to Jordan's game. In that 1993-1994 season, the front office made a decision to add players like they normally would have had number 23 still been a part of the team. With Pippen able to mimic a similar style of play, what they believed they needed was a perimeter shooter, which they got with the free agent signing of Steve Kerr, and another big man that could either start or come off the bench, which they got in Bill Wennington. That first year without Jordan, Pippen and the Bulls won a respectable 55 games and got to the second round of the playoffs before being eliminated by the Knicks in 7 games. The Bulls' second year without Jordan did not go so smoothly. The Bulls front office continued to add additional pieces that they thought would get them back to the promised land that was the NBA Finals by adding Ron Harper and Judd Bushler. Unfortunately, Harper never really panned out in a Bulls uniform, mainly due to his minutes restrictions he faced during his tenure in Chicago, and Judd never really found his place coming off the bench, posting mediocre numbers throughout. But they got just what the doctor ordered when Jordan sent that iconic fax simply stating, "I'm back." After his return, the front office knew they needed something to take them over the hump, something that they were missing those past 2 years besides Jordan. Obviously, him coming back was an immense help, but they didn't want everything to fall on him like they had in the past. Now that Pippen had established himself as a confident scorer in Jordan's absence, they needed another element to this team. That is when a meeting between head coach Phil Jackson, Michael Jordan, and Scottie Pippen happened. The end result, after much thought and consideration, was Dennis Rodman. Being in a front office cannot be easy. You can't just put a bunch of superstar scorers together and hope they work out a way to share the ball and hope that things work fluidly. You need to be able to craft a team based on what they do well and what they need improvements on and make your acquisitions from there. The Bulls knew they were a decent rebounding team, but if they could make an adjustment and increase the number of rebounds they get per night, they would not only minimize the number of scoring chances the opposing team has, but they would also maximize the number of scoring chances they can have. And with an accomplished scorer like Jordan on your team, you want to have the ball in your team's hands as much as possible. That is why they got Rodman. They didn't need a scorer. They needed someone who could rebound with the best of them. And he did. In the 1994-1995 season, the Bulls were averaging just over 40 rebounds per game, while their opponents were averaging 40 rebounds per game. That's not a huge discrepancy. After the acquisition of Rodman in that 1995-1996 season, the Bulls' rebounding numbers were in the mid-40s and their opponents' rebounding numbers were in the mid to high 30s. That was also the year that they won 72 games and their 4th championship. Well, those are my thoughts on the Chicago Bulls front office in the 90s. From crafting a team with a young MJ to win 3 championships, to slightly adjusting their offensive identity in the time of his retirement, and their crafting understanding of what this team truly needed with the return of Jordan to make them great again. Until next time, I'm Kevin Householder.